What's up, friends? How's it going? And thanks for coming back to the channel. I hope you've been enjoying my latest series on building a Blazor web application with C# and the .NET Core framework. But I'm going to take a little bit of a diversion here and talk about exactly what you saw in the title, which is how to get yourself a job in this very tricky software development climate. Now, first of all, major disclaimer, it took me 10 solid months before I landed a gig. All right. And I am by no means the expert, but I have had some people reach out to me asking me what advice, if any, I had for them. So, based on a couple of things, first of all, my experience as a job hunter, and then now that I'm in a position, I've actually had the opportunity recently to sit on the HR side of things and look at resumes that were coming in to hire somebody to join our team. So I've seen it from both angles, and I'm going to tell you all about my experiences and what I've learned from them and what I think can help you the best. So with that said, without any further ado, let's get started. So I've got like 7 main bullet points that I want to cover here. The first one is, I think number one most important thing is find something that you're good at and focus on that. I know in your program of study, if you're about to graduate or you just recently graduated, it can be easy to get lost in the world of software development and all the different things, tools, aspects, what have you, that you can focus on. I think it's really important that you spend time focusing on just a couple or one major thing that you're going to be good at. There's plenty of time in your life to be good at everything, but right now as it is, you're trying to get a job, you want to focus on just one thing because that's what's going to land you that position. So for me, it was C# in the .NET environment. I added all these extra things here in my GitHub profile to show that I am kind of versatile, and that's totally cool, but really the main thing is you want to focus on one or two like singular frameworks or languages or what have yous, because that's what's going to basically be your biggest selling point. Software development teams, especially if you're looking for an entry-level position, aren't looking for a jack of all trades. As far as that, most software development teams are already focused on one or two core technologies, and they want somebody who's going to be able to work in that core technology. If you show up saying that you're good at everything under the sun, they're going to actually think that you are only kind of good at all those things, as in you've just like touched on them a little bit, and i.e. that to them means that you aren't really much of an expert in any one particular thing, especially the thing that they're focused on. So keep that in mind. Even if you are good at a whole bunch of different things, make sure your resume reflects the one main thing that you are focused on. For me, like I said, it was C#. And you'll notice in my GitHub repositories, a lot of it is all C# stuff. I spent a lot of time working on C# and the .NET Framework, .NET Core. I did a lot of tutorials on Udemy and YouTube and various other places, as well as like reading and practicing my own apps and stuff. So it was really important for me to make sure that I focused just on C# so that when I eventually landed a job, it was C# based because that's what I was good at. I know there's places that are looking for like C++ and Python and stuff. I didn't really like those that much, so I didn't focus a whole lot on them. I can write in C++ and Python and what have you, but they're not my focus, and so therefore, that's not what I was looking for in a position. And with that, the next 2 bullet points kind of go hand in hand. The first one is going to be get your problem-solving skills on lock. And in order to do this, number 3, practice writing algorithms in your language of choice. So if I check out my repository here on C#, this is called C# utilities. And really all it was a whole bunch of C# mini console applications that I was writing to solve everyday random problems. And I've got a little bit of a showcase going on here. You can see more of them in the link up here that'll show you all of the different program showcases that I added to my YouTube. But essentially what I did was I asked myself just what is going to be the best thing for me to do to practice? And I went out looking for different problems to solve. Now, some of these I got from technical interviews, like the pattern finder here was actually from a technical interview that I had to do a few years back that was basically asking for me to find a pattern of a string within a 2-dimensional array of characters. And so that's what I did here for that one. This other menu one, I got this from a different tutorial that I did that did the menu in a certain style, and I didn't like it, so I took it upon myself to improve it and then made it into like a class that you can just drop into any other console application that you have. And that's essentially what this whole utilities solution is. So if you were to fork this and download it and check it out, you can see there's tons and tons of people have already been doing that, which is cool. You can see there's a whole bunch of different utilities that you can use. Essentially all these things was me trying to solve problems and basically get my problem solving skills honed in a little bit more in my language of choice. So when I say practice writing algorithms in your language of choice, what I mean is to say, for instance, for me it's C Sharp, open up a C Sharp app or open up a C Sharp solution in Visual Studio and just start writing the solution to a problem. And it can start simple and then work your way up. It can be something as simple as like turning a string turning a string, reverse it, or determining if a string is a palindrome, something silly like that, something silly and simple, and then work your way up. Really what it comes down to is you want to get your problem solving skills, especially in that language, going really good. And the reason for that is because you might not know exactly the technology that's going to be in the technical interview that you have to take, but if you understand how to solve the problem, you can still write the code to make it happen. For example, one of my technical interviews that I had to do was at ASP.NET, and it had specifically a web forms application running, and I needed to return something to the browser, but that something also had to be run on the code behind to do something in particular. Well, I wasn't really 100% sure on how to return it to the browser, but I knew 100% how to solve the problem in the code behind, and that was the key to me getting a callback for that interview, because while I couldn't do what they needed in that exact technology, the web forms, they did see that I had the problem solving ability to actually solve the problem in the code and make the final result happen. And so really it would have just been an extra maybe 5% of work of them telling me how to get that solution to the front end. So what I'm saying is basically, if you can solve the problem algorithmically in the code, then as far as the other parts of the technology are concerned, that's less of a concern for a particular company if they're looking for somebody to hire. Really what they want to know is how much coding do you know and how well are your problem solving skills in that particular coding language. Now, all of that's well and good, but you're never going to get anywhere if you don't have a good resume. And so that's my advice number 4 is tighten it up. And when I say tighten it up, what I mean is I've seen a lot of resumes out there that have a variety of different like formats and stuff. This one was mine initially when I first started out, okay? I started off my career as a teacher a long time ago, and I've transitioned into software development recently. And so I was taking my skills from before, the job market 20 years ago when I was first in it, and building a resume based off of that. And this, of course, resume is like, it's pretty all right. It's not like the best out there, but it works for what it needs to do. The thing is, like, this kind of resume is good for if you're handing it into a person in person. Like you're walking into a job and saying, here's my resume, check this out. It reads like that. It's meant for a person to read through it. It's got all these lists of things in the applicable skills, and it's got these key qualifications and kind of bullet points. And while there's a lot of information that is useful, when it comes down to it, you're up against maybe 100, 200, even 500 to 1,000 different applicants. How are you going to stand out? A picture like this is helpful, but as far as all of these words, an HR person is going to give it 2 to 3 minutes max, and then they're going to move on. If they don't get what they need from that resume in that 2 to 3 minutes, it's getting tossed, all right? So my resume actually went through quite a few iterations. This is the very first one. And then I formatted it a little bit better to look a little bit nicer in this regard. Again, still human readable, but I was kind of going in the opposite direction on the right-hand side here. I see a lot of resumes that are kind of formatted like this, but less so with all this wordiness. This is where I was kind of falling behind on everything. All of this stuff here is true. I didn't pad any of this, but the thing is, it's too much. It's way more than what needs to be actually said or shown to an HR person. Like here I am with C Sharp, but also C++ and Java, and then JavaScript and TypeScript and Python. Like why does an HR person need to know that I know all of those things? Even a developer team, unless I'm working in a technology specifically using all 6 of these technologies, there's no reason for me to list them here. All right. It's focus on one or two things and that's it. So maybe C# and TypeScript for an Angular front end, C# API backend, or just Python if I'm looking to do some machine learning stuff, but not all of this. Same thing with your database stuff. I mean, it is helpful to know a lot of these things, but SQL Server and T-SQL are pretty similar. And of course, MySQL is also similar. So why bother putting all of them? Just put SQL, all right? And so it's things like that that you want to make sure that you avoid doing, making this huge long list, because really what it seems like you're doing is just doing this kind of, well, I've heard of these technologies and I know that they're really popular right now, so let me just throw them onto my resume, all right? Another thing to keep in mind, this is my newer version of the resume, and this one's actually labeled as AI friendly. The reason I did that is because a lot of technology companies are using AI to sift through their resumes. And so I made this resume specifically to submit to companies that I thought might be using AI to screen their resumes. And in all honesty, it worked. It got hits. More hits than the other two resumes that I just showed you. And the reason it got hits was because it was very simplified. It's more in this single column Word document format, which makes it really easy for an AI machine to parse. Additionally, I took out a lot of other stuff, like I left out all of my professional references. They can get those if they want them. I only put the applicable skills. Again, though, I still have this issue where I've got all of these bullet points going on here of all these different things that I know how to do. And again, it's kind of like, it's a little bit too much, Angular and React. I mean, if you're going to be getting hired for a company, they're going to be using one or the other, not both typically. Same thing with Razor as well. It's a third technology similar to those other two. You're going to be using one of those three, not all of them. I mean, it's helpful to know that, and that's something you can mention in the actual job interview. But if you're going for an actual job that is focused on front-end development of something, you want them to know which front-end development technology you know best that's going to work best with what they're doing. If it's a web company that's using React and you know React, put React on there and don't bother putting the other things. You can let them know that you know that later on. Same thing with the back-end development stuff. Again, the technology is going to be either C# or C++ or Java or something like that. So put on which one you know the best. Don't put all of them unless that company, for whatever reason, is using all of them. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. And then finally, with this resume thing, what you want to do is you really want to focus on your experience and how that experience is going to help you be a good fit for that particular job. So my current job, this is my side job at this point now. I work at the Venetian as a technician and programmer at the escape room that's up on this level 2M. This job had me doing a lot of different things that were not program related, but there were some program related items in there. And so what I did was I made sure that I listed those things in particular in my resume. Specifically, what they want to see is like quantifiable metrics. They don't want to see this bullet point list of all these things that you know. They want to know how you applied the things that you know. So instead of saying that I just know C#, like I showed in this one here by listing just C#, I wrote what I used C# for by basically building an app that increased search engine visibility by 50%. So it's things like that that they want to see and things like that that are going to draw their attention. They don't want to see a bulleted list because, again, a bulleted list kind of implies that you just wrote out the things that you've heard of or maybe remember from your classes. They want to know what you actually did. Now, if you're a fresh graduate and all you've done is projects from classes, list those here, but put them in a quantifiable way. So it doesn't have to necessarily be like made an app that got me an A+, but explain what your app does in 25 words or less and how that could be applicable to the real world if in fact it would be used in the real world. All right, it doesn't have to be exactly dead on. You can fudge the numbers just a little bit if you have to. You can even add in theoretical numbers if you think it will help. But put it in quantifiable results so that they can see that you are going to be an asset to their team because you've already done stuff that gets results. That's what they want to see. All right. And then another thing about this whole resume thing, and this comes up to bullet point number 5, don't use a generic resume like the one that LinkedIn gives you. So this is my resume that LinkedIn gives me, and as you can see, it's a whole bunch of bullet points all the way down, and they're not very good. They're not very uh, descriptive. They're okay. But the thing is, these resumes are a dime a dozen. When you are on a development team and you're looking at potential people to come and join your team, and you're seeing this exact same resume format 30 times in a row, you start to get lost in you start to get lost in the resumes in a way that makes you just kind of ignore everything that's being said because it seems like it's been said already, and it keeps you from standing out. All right. So keep that in mind too. When it's time to submit your resume, make it stand out at least a little bit. All right. I know this one doesn't seem like it does, but compared to a lot of the resumes that I've seen recently being submitted to my current place of employment, where we're hiring a junior developer, this resume does stand out because it looks drastically different than this one. And if you're wondering where I got this particular format, I didn't make this up myself. I got it from Indeed. It's right here. You just do a Google search for software development resume examples, and it'll bring you up to this particular, I don't know why this is in the way. It brings you up to this particular example right here. And this is basically what I did. I copied it, everything except for the skills at the bottom. I really don't like these bulleted lists, and they don't work very well. I recommend don't download the template though. Make it in a Google Doc and make it your own. If you download the template, it's too easy for you to forget something or accidentally leave something from the template in there. And then of course it's going to end up with that in your resume that you submit, and that's not going to look good. All right, so I would recommend opening this up in one tab, opening up a Google tab or a Google Docs tab in another window, and then copy what you've got from here to there by typing it out straight away. It'll give you a good idea too of what your skills actually are, because that's a good way to kind of like take inventory of what you're capable of and what you can do. And that's going to give you, again, a good foundation to talk about yourself, not only in the resume, but if you actually get an in-person interview. All right. And then with that being said, as far as in-person interviews, make sure you're applying to jobs that you actually fit. So if you go to Indeed or LinkedIn or whatever and you click on the jobs thing, you're obviously going to get a list of jobs to look for. But I suggest doing a search for things that are going to be applicable to you. Don't just go for full stack developer. Go for like full stack .NET developer or full stack C++ developer or whatever it is that your technology is. You want to narrow it down. Yes, that's going to narrow down the amount of jobs you can apply for, but if all you're going to do is go after it with a scatter gun, you're not going to get as good of results as if you go after it with a sniper rifle. If that analogy makes any sense. Basically what I'm saying is, like, you could apply to 100 jobs a day, but if they're all over the place, one, you're just as likely to get as many callbacks as if you apply to 1 or 2 good fit jobs a day. And you might also get called back for a job, if you go the first approach, for a job that you might not be interested in. Like for me, when I first started applying, I did just full stack engineer or full stack developer. Anything that just said entry level, I applied for, because I was thinking I just need to get my foot in the door. But the problem is that all of those jobs, or I should say the majority of those jobs, weren't technologies I was particularly interested in, and I was not very excited about them. And so I didn't feel like I was putting in a whole lot of effort for them. I mean, if I applied to, say, like this machine learning engineer job here, I'm not really into machine learning as a career. I like it as a hobby, but I'm not interested in doing it as a full-time career. So if they called me back, I'd be less likely to give them my full undivided attention. And that's going to wear you down overall anyways. You want to give all of your focus to the jobs that you know you're going to be a good fit for and the jobs that you are actually going to want to do. And so that brings me to my last bullet point, which is don't give up. I know it can seem really hard and daunting at this moment in time, especially if you've graduated recently and you're trying to find a job and you're realizing how many companies have already laid off employees and how many more are likely going to do the same thing again in the future. It is really difficult to think about that. But I gotta say, don't give up, don't lose hope, take it in stride. Even if you get your 150th rejection, like, keep on going. It's okay to take breaks too. Like I would find myself applying like a crazy person for 3 weeks straight. And then after the 50th rejection letter or just no like ghosting or whatever, I would stop and I would just focus on the job I was doing at the time, or I would focus on practicing my skills, building more apps. I mean, you can see here in my GitHub, like I basically coded nonstop for the last however long this was, all the way through 2023 and up through 2020, or sorry, through 2022. Pretty much this entire time was just nonstop. Right here, this empty spot was when I finally graduated from my program at SNHU. So I decided to give myself a little bit of a break for the holidays. But after that, it was right back at it until I finally landed a job in November. And yeah, that's a long time. I mean, basically graduating in the end of November, beginning of December 2022, and not landing a job until the beginning of November 2023. That's a long 10 to 11 months. And it was hard. But the thing is, you just got to keep going because something will end up happening one way or the other. You got to just focus on the things that I just listed here. Get that resume locked down. Focus on your problem solving skills and your one specific technology that you want to like mainly do, and of course make sure that you are applying to jobs that you're going to be a good fit in. Don't go at it with a scattergun because it's not going to get you where you want to be. You need to focus on the things that you know you're going to fit well in. All right, and then I guess my last little piece of advice after all of that would be just simply make sure your interview in-person skills are also really good, because development teams are looking for people that they can communicate with easily. If you are not a good communicator, if you don't put a good impression up front when you're in person, they are not going to want to hire you because they're not going to feel like you're a good fit for the team. It's not just about your skills that you put on paper here in your resume. It's also about how you can take those skills and work with a team of other people. It's very rare that you're going to get a job where you're one, working remote, and two, working by yourself, unless you want one of those project type jobs, in which case those sometimes they're fly by night. You might have it for 6 months and then be looking for another job after that. If you're looking for something permanent, you want to make sure that you can integrate into the team. Take any opportunity that they offer to you. For instance, I got lucky with mine. They were going to give me my interview on the day that they were also having their company Halloween party. So they extended an invite to me. And I'm 100% convinced that it was kind of a test to see what kind of person I would. And while I am not typically the kind of person who would want to show up to an invited Halloween party at a company that I don't know anybody at, I went ahead and took the bait, and sure enough, I showed up anyways. And that right there won me a whole bunch of points with the team. And the party wasn't even really a party. It was mostly just us sitting around shooting the crap, just talking to one another. That's it. But that was their way of getting to know me and seeing what kind of a person I was. And then after that was when they gave me the technical interview. And honestly, I kind of biffed the interview, or the technical interview portion of it, a little bit. I got 2 of the questions right, but the last one, which was the big one, I didn't do so well on. And it wasn't 100% my fault. They were pointing the database in the wrong direction, but still, I wasn't able to really give them any kind of actual code or solution to the problem when I handed it back to them. But it was the fact that I won them over by coming to their party and hanging out with them for a little bit. That's what really did it. So keep that in mind. Like, it isn't just about how you appear on paper or on the internet. You need to also make sure that you are able to bring that A game to the actual interview portion in person when you get there. All right. So hopefully all of that advice helped you out just a little bit. I know it's going to be tough. I mean, again, I'm going to sit here and tell you I've been there 100%. Like, I spent 11 months just sending out applications, hoping for something, going to interviews, and then getting the rejection letters and the rejection emails. And sometimes they'd reject me and wouldn't even tell me why when I got back to them. You know, I mean, it is what it is, but don't let it get you down. All right. If I can do it, I mean, I've got a criminal record. So, and I was able to land a position with a company full time. If I can do it, anyone can do it. So keep that in mind, work hard, don't give up, and just keep pushing through, and make sure that you're using your time wisely by practicing all of your skills so that when the time comes, you can bring your A game to the job. All right, so hopefully this helped out. I promise I'm going to have another video coming up with my Blazor WebAssembly series in just a few. But anyways, for for this video, if you want to drop me a comment and let me know if it helped you at all, or if it was, like if there was too much information, or if there was more questions you have for me, please feel free to reach out and ask. I'm more than happy to let anybody know anything I can help them with. I'm based in Las Vegas. I don't have any insider stuff for any jobs right now, unfortunately, because the position at my company has recently been filled. But if anything else opens up, I will let people know. In the meantime, though, just keep on chugging away, keep practicing, and good luck to you.